In the deadly world of Mexican cartels, violence isn't just a byproduct of their criminal empire. It's a tool of power, dominance, and fear. But what if I told you these cartels don't just kill their enemies? They torture them in ways designed to inflict unimaginable pain. These methods aren't just about elimination. They're meant to send a terrifying message to their rivals, law enforcement, and the public. Today, we're diving deep into the darkest corners of cartel violence. From chainsaw beheadings to dissolving bodies in acid, the brutality used by Mexican cartels is horrifying. But here's the chilling truth. This violence isn't just random, it's strategic. Cartels use torture as a weapon of psychological warfare. What you're about to hear are the most extreme and inhumane torture methods used by cartels like Loz Zetas, the Sinaloa Cartel, and the Gulf Cartel. Stay with us as we explore the grisly tactics designed to control, terrorize, and dominate. Perhaps one of the most horrifying methods employed by cartels like Loz Zetas is flaying, the act of skinning a person alive. Imagine the terror of being slowly, painfully stripped of your skin while still conscious. What if I told you this wasn't done in private but often in public? Cartels use flaying to send a message, displaying the victim's body or even their skin in public areas to terrify entire communities. These grotesque scenes are meant to remind everyone, no one is safe from the cartel's reach. The victim usually dies from shock, blood loss, or infection, but not before suffering unimaginable pain. And here's where it gets even more chilling. Some cartel members film the process and distribute it to spread even more fear. This isn't just about killing, it's about ensuring the victim's death resonates with everyone watching. Among the most infamous cartel operatives is Santiago Meza Lopez, better known as El Pozolero, or the Stew Maker. His job? To dissolve bodies in acid for the Tijuana cartel. But here's the chilling part. Meza wasn't an isolated case. What if I told you that dissolving bodies in acid is a common practice among several cartels? Cartel members reduce victims' remains to nothing more than sludge, erasing all evidence of their existence. Meza himself admitted to dissolving over 300 bodies in barrels of sulfuric acid. The victims are dismembered first, their bodies cut into pieces and thrown into large vats of acid. But it's not just about eliminating evidence. This method sends a message that the cartels can make people disappear without a trace. Families are left with nothing, not even a body to bury. For many, the terror isn't just in the act, it's in the uncertainty. Loved ones disappear, never to be found, and that uncertainty lingers over communities. One of the most nightmarish methods used by Mexican cartels is known as el guiso, or the stew. This involves cooking the victim alive. And yes, it's as horrifying as it sounds. The cartels place their victims in oil drums or large containers filled with boiling oil or set on fire. The victim is burned alive, a slow, agonizing death that maximizes suffering. This method is used not just to kill, but to terrify. Imagine being trapped inside a drum, knowing you're about to be cooked alive. It's psychological torture as much as it is physical. What's even more terrifying? Cartels sometimes leave the burned remains out in public as a warning, a chilling reminder that anyone could be next. This method isn't just about ending a life. It's about sending a message that death will come in the most horrific way possible. In the world of cartel torture, there's a method known as the piñata. But this isn't a festive game. It's a brutal form of execution where the victim is tied up and beaten repeatedly with bats, pipes, or clubs. But what if I told you that the goal isn't to kill the victim right away? The cartels deliberately prolong the torture, breaking bones and causing internal injuries, but keeping the victim alive for as long as possible. It's a message to anyone who witnesses it: disobey and you'll be next. The victim's agony is drawn out over hours, with each strike intended to break their spirit as much as their bones. And here's the psychological twist. This method is often done in front of other cartel members or captives, ensuring that the fear spreads throughout their ranks. The cartels also employ a method known as el tamal, where the victim is wrapped in duct tape or plastic wrap, leaving no way to breathe. Victims are suffocated in a slow, terrifying manner as the plastic or tape tightens around them, cutting off their air supply. What if I told you the cartels intentionally leave small gaps for air to prolong the torture? The victim is trapped, slowly suffocating, knowing death is coming, but not knowing exactly when. This slow death ensures maximum panic and terror. El Tamal is often used as a punishment for those who owe debts or betray the cartel. The slow, agonizing suffocation serves as a brutal reminder that the cartels are always in control. The victims' last moments are filled with sheer terror as they struggle for their final breaths. When it comes to cartel brutality, few methods are as infamous as the chainsaw beheading. This gruesome method is often filmed and shared as a way to intimidate not only rivals, but also law enforcement. Victims are beheaded with chainsaws, a method that is fast but horrifyingly brutal. But here's the chilling twist. These executions are filmed deliberately. The videos are circulated among rival cartels and even on the dark web, showing the lengths cartels will go to eliminate their enemies. The chainsaw isn't just a tool, it's a symbol of the cartel's willingness to be more brutal than anyone else. For some cartels, torture goes far beyond a quick death. One of the most sadistic methods they employ is dismembering victims while they are still alive. This isn't just about execution, it's about creating a spectacle of suffering. Imagine having your limbs, fingers, or even ears cut off piece by piece, knowing that each moment brings more agony. Cartels will often do this slowly, ensuring the victim stays conscious long enough to endure the maximum amount of pain. But what if I told you that this isn't just done in isolation? Cartels often film the dismemberments, broadcasting them across social media or sending them directly to their enemies as a warning. The Sinaloa Cartel and Loz Zetas are notorious for this level of violence, using it to punish traitors, informants, or rival gang members. Dismembering someone alive sends a clear message. Cross us and you won't just die, you'll suffer in the worst way imaginable. These acts are often performed in front of other captives or even broadcasted online, creating a ripple of terror that stretches far beyond the immediate victim. Another method used by cartels to inflict slow, painful death is the garrote, a tool used for strangulation. In this method, a victim is tied to a chair and a cord or wire is looped around their neck. The executioner tightens the wire, slowly cutting off the victim's airflow and blood circulation. What if I told you that the cartels deliberately use this method to prolong the suffering? The victim doesn't die quickly. Instead, they experience minutes of excruciating pain, knowing that their time is running out with every tightening twist of the garrote. For the cartels, this method isn't just about execution. It's about asserting control in the most intimate, terrifying way possible. Watching a victim gasp for breath, knowing there's no escape, reinforces the cartel's absolute power. The cartels have also adopted electrocution as a method of torture designed to keep the victim alive while inflicting unbearable amounts of pain. The victim is often tied to metal chairs or other conductive surfaces, and electrical currents are passed through their body. Electrocution causes the victim's muscles to contract violently, leading to burns, organ damage, and unimaginable agony. But what makes this method even more horrifying is that it can be done in waves, keeping the victim alive long enough to suffer multiple rounds of shocks. What if I told you that cartels don't just use electrocution for punishment, they also use it as an interrogation technique? Victims are often tortured with electricity to extract information or force confessions. The pain is so overwhelming that victims often break down quickly, giving the cartels what they want. For some cartels, brutality comes in a more hands-on form, breaking bones manually with hammers, bats, or pipes. This is a slow, torturous method where victims are beaten repeatedly until their bones are shattered. But here's where the terror really sets in. The goal isn't to kill the victim right away. The cartels deliberately break fingers, legs, and ribs to inflict maximum pain, keeping the victim alive as long as possible. It's a drawn-out process that ensures total agony. This method is often used as a way to punish disobedience or instill fear in others. Victims are left crippled, either to die from their injuries or to serve as a living warning to others. Imagine being forced to watch as bones are broken, one by one, knowing you could be next. One of the most infamous forms of torture used by cartels is waterboarding, a technique that simulates drowning. The victim is laid flat, with their head tilted back and covered with a cloth, while water is poured over them, the sensation of drowning is immediate and terrifying. What if I told you that waterboarding doesn't kill the victim, but it can feel like you're dying over and over again? The psychological terror of waterboarding is intense. Victims are convinced they're seconds away from death, and this fear can break even the strongest person. Waterboarding is often used by cartels during interrogations. It's a method that allows them to keep the victim alive while pushing them to the edge of panic and despair. The fear of drowning is primal, and waterboarding plays on that fear to force compliance. Some cartels take their torture methods a step further by branding their victims, burning them with red-hot metal. These brands aren't random. Often, victims are marked with the cartel's logo or initials, leaving a permanent scar that serves as a mark of humiliation. What if I told you that these brands are a form of permanent punishment? Victims are left with scars that mark them as betrayers or debtors. The branding isn't just about the pain, it's about the lasting shame and psychological trauma. The pain from branding is immediate and excruciating, but the victim is left with a constant reminder of their torment. Branding is often used to punish those who have wronged the cartel but are allowed to live, though they will never forget their betrayal. In some cases, Mexican cartels employ a particularly terrifying method of execution: the car bomb. Victims are tied up inside a car that has been rigged with explosives. The bomb is then detonated remotely, leaving no chance of escape. But here's the most chilling part. Victims often know what's coming. They're left tied up in the car, waiting for the explosion. Imagine sitting there, feeling the ticking seconds pass, knowing that your death is inevitable. This method isn't just about killing, it's about creating a psychological nightmare for the victim in their final moments. Car bombs are typically reserved for high-profile targets, rival cartel leaders, informants, or even law enforcement officials who have crossed the cartel. The explosion sends a message of total destruction and power. No one is safe. These are just some of the most brutal torture methods used by Mexican cartels. Each one serves a specific purpose: to eliminate enemies, to send a message, or to control entire regions through fear and terror. These cartels are not just about the drug trade. They are about power, and their use of violence ensures that power remains unquestioned. As you've seen, the world of the Mexican cartels is a dark and terrifying one, where human life holds little value. It's a world where violence is currency and brutality is power. Turn on the notification bell so that you are the first to enjoy the most compelling crime documentaries. If you enjoyed this video, then click here for another video delving into the inner world of the world's most notorious criminal organizations.